welcome everybody here to the X-Bomb Sports Live Show. My name is Andrew Valentin, and I hope you're all having a fantastic Thursday. We are coming to you live, of course, from the Illinois Media School here in Lombard, Illinois. Again, wherever it is for you, ladies and gentlemen, day or night. I hope it is just right. And with me, as always, is the incomparable, the amazing, the stupendous Mr. Drew Gwillem, folks. Drew.
Did you just call me stupid?
Really, we're gonna start this now?
Yeah, why not? Right off the bat.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we do, my friend.
Stupendous.
Yes, stupendous.
Oh, okay.
Because you are marvelous and all that other good
I didn't
stuff.
get it. It must be because I'm stupid.
No, you're not, my friend. You are a loving man, and that's why we have you here. And how are you doing today, man?
More of the same. Tired. Happy to be here. Doing something fun.
I'm
ready for this draft.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm
I was gonna
intrigued. There
say
should be a lot of noise. There already is a lot of noise,
Yeah.
but there should
Oh,
continue
yeah.
to be a lot of noise.
absolutely, and we will keep you guys updated as well. I mean, the draft. We're gonna try to get out of here as fast as we can to catch the draft, but if anything does happen, we will update you on that. We'll follow through with that. There should according to Adrian Wojciechowski, there's gonna be a lot of moves made. I mean, he's talking players, picks, all that good stuff. So
yeah, just like the NFL draft, I want to see madness.
absolutely. Then this past NFL draft was wonderful. So it seems to be more of the same. So who knows? Maybe the other drafts will be just as exciting if I watched more of the baseball and NHL one. But, you never know. Maybe if this continues, we'll see. But, Drew, are you ready to get this started, my friend?
Let's do it.
Let's do this. So we're kicking this one off with, yes, NBA, but we're not going to keep talking about the draft per se. There's a lot of big news, obviously, for the NBA. Obviously, we know the offseason is here. Free agency eventually is going to be opening up. There's a lot of giant question marks that are out there. And these are some of the top questions that are in the NBA offseason right now, or off the season, if you will. So without further ado, let's just jump right into it. So the first question that I have is obviously the relaunch of the Lakers, which the question that I have to everybody out there, and then, of course, to my guy Drew here, I will toss it to you, is can the Lakers retool enough around LeBron James and Anthony Davis to potentially build themselves into contender, or is there a better chance that they're going to have to break it completely down? What are your thoughts?
Well, just like we talked about yesterday, trust or bust.
Yes.
We kind of went bust. They don't even have a pick at all.
Well, now they do. They have a pick now, trading a future second-round pick for the 35th pick because they probably want to take Shaq's son or whatever. But, it's whatever they want.
Whatever.
Yes.
Okay, congratulations, you found a pick.
Right.
We still said bust. That'll still continue for me today. So along with the same, I think they have to do a lot more than just a little retool.
Yeah.
Because they have big money guys, big contracts there with Anthony Davis, Westbrook. They have to do something with that. And I don't see this team, the way it's constructed, being the team that's going forward. And if they don't have a lot to work with, I don't know how they're going to be able to do enough to retool enough to be there at the end.
Right.
So for me, I don't see it really happening. I think they're going to have to do something more like, maybe not necessarily blowing the whole thing up.
Yeah.
But they're going to have to get rid of a lot to change a lot of those pieces out that weren't working.
Yeah, I'm in the same agreement. I think right now there are some moves they can potentially make again. Right. We have the Kyrie Irving situation that it could solve a lot for them. But the dynamic of can it work? Can LeBron and Kyrie get along with each other? That's going to be out there. Obviously, I would really like to see Westbrook go to Brooklyn just to see what KD's reaction would be. There's so much obviously there for what the Lakers have to do. I think you have to try and find a way to move off of Westbrook, maybe even find a way to move off of Anthony Davis. If you really think this is going to be a blown up thing, then there's a good chance that you could say we have to send off whoever we can, get whatever picks we can, because right now, I would have to say for the Lakers, it's not about the right now, it's about the future at this point. LeBron's future at this point is fading away. And you have to recognize it. He's 38 years old. How much longer is he going to go? Well, he says he's going to go till his son plays in the league. So that's about 40 years old. Are you going to really hope on that? Are you going to really pray that he's going to be the same guy in 2 years? He's already shown he's declining. So I would venture to say that for the Lakers, the best thing for them, I think, is to kind of disband. Don't worry about retooling, rebuild, and build for the future. That should be, I think, their goal at this point.
Yeah, and if they do want to move off of Anthony Davis, he could be a piece to move into get a first-round pick.
Yeah, absolutely.
Move into the lottery because someone's going to have to buy low on Anthony Davis.
Yes.
But at the same time, somebody's going to have to understand that this is still Anthony Davis.
Right.
You're going to have to pay something to get him, and that may be exactly what another team wants.
Yeah, absolutely. I've heard that, as far he wants to get to a contender. It sounds like he's not really too happy even with the Lakers himself. Look, man, if you want to go to a place where it looks like there might be some contending options out there, it's not a bad idea to consider maybe going either to Charlotte or maybe even consider what New Orleans is right now, because they seem like two viable places that might have enough capital to take you on. But obviously he's got a big contract, so we'll see what happens there with the Lakers. But the next question that we have in line, this has to do with the good old Utah Jazz. And if you like Jazz, I hope you understand that the Jazz right now are in a very crucial situation, right? Donovan Mitchell has officially said he does not want to be in Utah. Rudy Gobert obviously seems like he's kind of asked the Jazz at this point to kind of ship him out. They're trying to find a deal that can get him out of there. So the question I have for you, Drew, and obviously everyone else out there, do you think what direction do you see the Utah Jazz potentially going in order to try and steady the ship? I mean, do you think they keep Donovan Mitchell and move Rudy Gobert? Do you think they move both of these players and start all over again? Where do you see the Jazz kind of going from this point on?
Honestly, I feel like they're gonna get what they can for both of them and restart.
Okay.
Because one, Donovan Mitchell doesn't even want to be there.
Yeah.
Even if Gobert wasn't there.
Right.
That's a disgruntled player. We see how that works in the NBA. Most of the time, I think probably 90% of the time, those guys are end up getting moved now.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is.
Right.
Gobert, I don't think he's what they hoped he would be. Maybe he was early on, and then really, I feel like his career's kind of tailed off.
Yeah. I would say it's stagnated, where
Right.
he is what he is. There's no really getting better at this point.
And with that contract, it's going to make it difficult. So if anybody's going to stay, I could actually end up seeing Gobert stay more than Donovan Mitchell, because Gobert, I've heard that they don't get along.
Yeah.
But if Mitchell's not there, maybe he's fine with it. I haven't heard anything from him necessarily. I don't know about you, if he said that he wants out completely of Utah no matter what.
As far as I've heard, it sounds like he's just being mentioned in all these trades.
Yeah.
He's not really saying anything, which I think is smarter on his part. Donovan Mitchell's the one that came out and said, I don't want to be in Utah. Okay, fine. You look like the bad guy to the Jazz people, to the people of the Jazz fans, and so now I can be the hero.
And maybe that's just because Gobert's there. If Gobert gets moved, maybe he's happier there. But either way, if they move one of those guys, both of those guys, they're going to get pieces back that they can restart and rebuild that team.
Yeah.
Because whatever they're doing isn't working. We've seen it. First round knockout in the playoffs. It's not good enough.
Yeah, I right now I would say Donovan Mitchell. I think he is a guy that you can easily look at and say he'll pull you in a good first-round draft pick, a high pick potentially. I think if you're looking at maybe OKC, potentially maybe not OKC. I think San Antonio may be a better option considering they have a couple of first-round picks to burn. And we talked about this yesterday. I was a little bit more on the bus side because of the fact that I'm not too confident with their later first-round picks. I think they will take too many big gambles. If you take a guy with the 9th pick and then take a guy, or even if you package the 9th pick and in your later first-round pick and you keep your middle pick, right, and you get Donovan Mitchell, that's a pretty good player. It gives you a reason to keep DeJounte Murray then to pair him up with somebody, because it sounds like they want to try and move him, or teams want to trade for DeJounte Murray.
Yeah.
So... And even if that does happen, I've heard DeJounte Murray going to Atlanta for John Collins. That's a pretty good matchup, John Collins and Donovan Mitchell. That's a nice 1-2 pairing that you can kind of build around, I think, for San Antonio. Gives you young pieces at 24 and 25 apiece that you can really work with. So I think Donovan Mitchell's gone. Rudy Gobert, I think, is gone. So at this point, I think the direction the Utah Jazz go in is kind of the same thing with the Lakers. Rebuild, start all over again. Build this organization back to the top. See what you can get for Jordan Clarkson. See what you can get for some of these other pieces that have just kind of been hanging on there. You had your fun, 5 years of greatness. You had 50-plus win seasons. I think it's time to blow it up. So I agree with you completely. All right, next question is Philly has it hard, man. So when obviously Philly, their 76ers, their whole situation, it all is really kind of riding on what's going to happen with James Harden. So the question obviously for you, Drew, James Harden, what's the future with him and the 76ers? He's obviously said he's activating his player option, but do you think that means he's staying, or do you think that there's a good chance that Philly looks to potentially move on from it?
You ready for it?
Do it for me.
Don't care. I'm tired of James Harden. Tired of James Harden and him being a big baby and forcing his way out of too many teams.
Every team
in too short amount of time.
Yeah.
When are you going to be happy?
Right.
When will you be happy?
Yeah.
Your best chances were there with the Rockets. You're not the same player you are. Clearly, he's gotten lazy and doesn't want to work towards his craft anymore.
Right.
So if I were Philly, I wouldn't want to have anything to do with him. I wouldn't want to have anything to do with him.
Yeah.
You saw what you got from him in the playoffs with Embiid. I know he was hurt for some of it too, but you saw what he was. Mm-hmm. Even when Embiid was out, he couldn't be the guy.
Yeah.
He had one good game.
Yeah. More or less.
And it wasn't even like a superstar type game.
No.
It was like you're a pretty good player.
You're a playmaker.
Right. So for me, I would want him on my team. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't want him around, so I would try and get whatever I can for him.
Yeah.
With him picking up that player option, though, that's a lot of money. So they may not have a choice but to keep him.
That's kind of where I'm leaning at. I think Philly will try to maybe explore a trade for him, but the question I have is, who really wants him at this point, knowing the kind of player he is, and then who's got the ability to take on that cap? So I think Philly, unfortunately, I think they're going to stuck with each other at this point. It's not to say James Harden can't be a contributor to what Philly can potentially be in the future, but I think you have to say you're no longer the three-point shooter. You take your shots where you take your shots. Be the playmaker. Play the point guard. We'll get somebody else in here. Maxey looks like he can be a pretty good player, I think. I think he can be like an all-star player at his peak. And Philly still has their first-round pick, so whether they trade it with Tobias, if they trade it with Tobias Harris for like another player, or if they want to move up in the draft to get somebody else, I think that can really help them. It's at this point it's about keeping Embiid happy, because I still don't know. I know we haven't talked about it at all. I wanted to, but we really didn't talk about it. We still have to question whether or not I think Embiid wants to stay in Philly, because I have my doubts. And who knows, maybe there's going to be a giant trade for him. Maybe San Antonio trades for the big man, all their first-round picks for Joel Embiid. It could happen, and then Philly just starts all over again. So who knows? Anything could happen on this night, but I think Philly at this point, they're kind of stuck with James Harden. They're going to just have to go forward in the future and try and work him in whatever system they have, and hope that Doc Rivers can be enough to control him, I think, at this point. Next question we have, this is, of course, having to do with our good old... This has to be it for the Nets for today, for the time being, until they make the big move. But as of right now, obviously, the question is of whether or not Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant will potentially be moving out by tonight. There's been a lot of talk that Kyrie's trying to get his deal done tonight. If they can't come to an agreement, he has a list of teams that he wants to be traded to. Sounds like the Lakers and the Clippers actually now are on top of that list. And now the question's coming in on where's Kevin Durant in this situation. Sounded like he wasn't really trying to recruit players. Now he may not want to leave. Who knows, right? But Drew, I ask you this.
Up in the air.
Yeah, exactly. For Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant, how do you see their two futures going by the end of tonight? Do you think that they'll both be Brooklyn Nets, or do you think that one of them or both of them could potentially be gone by the time the draft is over?
I think one of them's going to be gone, and I think it's going to be Kyrie.
Okay.
And I think that Kevin Durant, as much as I wouldn't like him to stay, I think he will.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to work. I don't think they're going to have a deal, because I think they're on separate sides of this deal.
Yeah.
So I don't think they're going to come to an agreement on a deal. And he has this wish list of teams. Right here I see Lakers, Clippers, Knicks, Heat, Mavericks, and 76ers.
Yes.
That he would like to be for a sign-and trade to happen if they can't agree on a deal.
Right.
So I think that ultimately that's probably what's going to happen. And then who knows where that leads Durant.
Right.
As well, because I feel like if they don't have anything for him tonight, I don't know how they would want to work that. Do they want him to be part of a package to get picks to get a player in the draft, or they want somebody that can jump in and play and is going to give you something right away?
Yeah.
To add with Durant. If Kyrie leaves, maybe Durant does want out. It's a lot of what ifs and a lot of crazy things could happen with this. That again, yesterday was one story, today's a different with Kevin Durant. So things can change at the drop of a dime. So we don't know what's going to happen. I'm excited to find out what is going to happen, if anything at all, tonight. But going forward, I don't believe this team is going to be the same as it is at this point.
Yeah, I'm in the same, but I think this is a broken Brooklyn at this point. I don't know what's going to happen with the Kevin Durant situation. Like you said, it's one thing with him, it's another the next day. I think Kyrie, look, I said this before, a long time ago, I said this on a show. I did not believe that Kyrie and Kevin Durant had the best relationship like everybody thought they did. Turns out that's kind of now the word that's getting out there, that their relationship is not as cohesive as it once was. They're not, compadres like everybody thought they were, best friends and things like that. So I think that goes to even show more that, like, clearly there's a divide between the stars. There's a divide between the front office and the player. So I think at this point, Kyrie is the guy that's exiting out. I think Durant will try to explore an option, tell the Nets potentially, like, hey, I'm looking for a potential way out. I'm looking for a possibility to try and move on to a different team. They may explore that. It may not get done till free agency, though. Right. Who knows? But I think they want to try to. The thing that's going to suck, though, is that you traded all of these picks at one point for James Harden, and then it's kind of like what we see a lot of these teams do, right? They gather these super teams, and then everybody leaves when they don't do anything, and then it's like, well, what did you get back? You got nothing.
Yeah, and
you got absolutely nothing.
Yeah, and now your team's in shambles, and you have to wait multiple years before you even get a first-round pick back,
right?
And you can even begin to rebuild your team.
Yeah,
you have to get super lucky in the later rounds,
yes.
or late in the first round. If you find your way to get one of those picks back, get really lucky.
Yeah, absolutely. And then because you have no picks, what do you do then? The teams always overspend. They spend way too much money in free agency. They overpay on so many players. They don't deliver. All of a sudden, they're trying to trade those guys out. They're not getting back compensation that they want, and it just becomes more and more of a mess. And this is how Brooklyn and probably the Lakers, I'm sure at some point, will probably get themselves in bad situations. So I think Kyrie's gone. I think KD may potentially leave too. He's a little bit more of a question mark, but I think Kyrie's 1 foot out the door. I would say I think he's like one pinky toe in the house right now. Everything else about him, I think, is outside, being like, I want to break free. So I fully expect him to move. Fully expect him. All right, the next question we have, this has to do with the Suns and the big bag that could potentially be there for DeAndre Ayton. And the question that is being explored is, will the Suns re-sign DeAndre Ayton to the deal that he has been asking for, or will the Suns be looking to potentially trade him? Word is that they're potentially still trying to shop him, but they are also looking to potentially clear out cap space, move off the draft pick, potentially Cameron Johnson and a few other guys to try and still sign him if they can't make a move. So, Drew, I ask you, what do you think the Suns should do with DeAndre Ayton, and what do you think they will do with DeAndre Ayton? Do you think they'll re-sign him, or do you think they will trade him by sometime tonight?
I think because of the fact that they haven't already signed him to the deal that he wants, they don't think he's worth that deal. Otherwise, they would have done it already.
Right.
What more do you need to see in this time that they're not even playing to know that that's what you want from this player?
Right.
What he gives you is what we're going to pay him. And he deserves that money for his performance on the court.
Yeah.
And I don't believe they feel that he's worth that money.
Right.
So I think that he's going to be on the move. I don't think he's staying, whether it's a sign and trade. It has to be a sign and trade, I believe. Doesn't it? Or
I believe so.
Yeah. So I think they're going to pull a sign and trade. I don't know that. I think it'll be tough if they sign him to what the contract that he wants and then try to trade him. I don't know necessarily that people are going to want to do all that. Right. So maybe he just gets traded for pieces, and then the new team has to worry about a contract and going forward what they want from him. But I do not see him staying. It doesn't sound like they are big fans of him, and it sounds like they're not in it for what he wants.
No, he's been in the league for 4 years now. He hasn't averaged 20 points a game yet. He's averaged over 10 rebounds a game, which, hey, great for you. I mean, the rebounding's there. The defense is kind of there. I see it in other guys a lot. I see it in guys who are considerably less talented. They put forth more in effort, and I don't see that with him. On offense, I sometimes see him get lazy. On defense, I've seen him get lazy. I think he's a young guy who thinks because he's big, he's strong, and he was a number 1 overall pick, there's certain things that are allotted to him that he should be kind of praised almost as being a part of the Phoenix Suns and like, hey, I was a part of the reason why they were good too. Well, we know the reason why they got better. They went and got a certain point guard, signed him to a pretty nice contract, and he clearly made the difference in how that ball was moving around for Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton. He really actually made them better as players. So we can't deny that Chris Paul was really the X factor that made that team different. And the fact that he's fighting with Chris Paul and Devin Booker about, I don't see the ball enough, I need to see more time with it. We would have won the playoff games had you just worked me into the team more. That's all nonsense. That's all nonsense. Everybody had their mistakes, including him.
Yeah.
You didn't play up to your potential. There were games where you didn't even have more than 5 rebounds. You had single-digit points.
That's called bad attitude and not hustling and not playing off the ball 100% of the time like you're supposed to.
Absolutely.
Okay? You have to go out and play. This is the NBA. This is professional sports. You get paid millions of dollars. Go out there and bust your ass and earn that money, earn that contract. Play like you want to be there, like you're supposed to be there. And it doesn't seem like he has.
No, I have. Listen, could he obviously is young enough that he can still develop. He does give you a good as far as win shares go, which take that value for what you want. He does seemingly give you supposedly 7 wins on the win shares thing. Again, take that with a grain of salt for what it is, right? My biggest thing, again, is his attitude. And if he were, like, people want him in Chicago, again, if he came to Chicago, how's he going to work with a veteran guard forward in DeMar DeRozan who's been there, done that, and a Zach LaVine who, at this point, is a veteran in the league as well and is getting a lot of respect. It's the same dynamic. It's the same thing. It's the same concept. And if you add Lonzo Ball into that mix, there's a possibility he's then the, 4th best player on the team. So, I mean, let's...
You should go to Detroit.
Yeah, go to Detroit, hang out with Cade Cunningham, and we'll beat your butt, 7 days a week.
Change of scenery might be what's needed here.
Absolutely. But go ahead. Well, I'll have fun seeing you all year long.
Yeah.
I promise. All right, and the last question we have for this one, it is Zach LaVine or Bradley Beal. The question that was asked by one of our good fans by the name of Mario. Thank you so much to our guy Mario, who's actually from Chicago. In his question, he was talking about how Zach LaVine obviously wants the giant deal, but he also alluded to me, which something I completely forgot that eluded me, was that Bradley Beal has declined his player option, which makes him an unrestricted free agent, which means he's out there in the market to be available to sign. Now, obviously, the difference in these two is not too far off, but the age and a lot of other things are certainly a concern. But the question I have to you, Drew, is between Zach LaVine and Bradley Beal, which of these two do you feel would be best for, in your eyes, for you to have as your starting shooting guard?
For me, Bradley Beal is one of those guys that's kind of a bulldog.
Mm-hmm.
He goes out there. He's got no problem getting in someone's face. He attacks.
Yeah.
And I feel like some of that fades out big time with Zach at times. And at the same time, it can with Bradley Beal as well.
Yeah.
And I've heard a lot of talk that both their defenses aren't very good and they both don't play. But I always thought that Bradley Beal played better defense than what I've heard recently.
I think he's definitely more active on defense. If you want to, he has more activity going on. At least it's like, I'm trying. It may not always work, but I'm trying out there.
Right. And Zach has that at times too. But again, both of these guys have had injury problems. Both of these guys have missed a lot of time.
Yeah.
So I think it's like you're getting the same thing either way.
Right.
Basically. I mean, one guy's a little older. Zach, at the top of his game, can score from anywhere. He has that ability. I think I might stick with Zach just for the fact that he is a little younger, and I think he has a better shot.
Yeah.
And really at the top of his game, can score from anywhere and score in bunches.
Okay.
We saw it early on in the season when he had Lonzo Ball there, when he was able to find him when Zach was playing off the ball more.
Right.
You saw what you got. He got some 40-point games. He got a lot of 30-point games.
Mm-hmm.
We saw him and DeMar together getting all those points. So
Absolutely.
I like both players.
Mm-hmm.
It would be a very, very tough decision for me because
Yeah.
I think they are so similar. But I think at this point, because of Zach being here already, in tune with the team,
Mm-hmm.
they like him. Get healthy. Hopefully that knee is not going to be an issue.
Right.
And I think I stay with Zach.
Yeah, it's a difficult toss-up. I mean, listen, Bradley Beal's actually 28 years old. I'm actually older than you, Bradley, but happy birthday when it does come up in a few days.
I wouldn't be upset either way, put it that
no,
way.
absolutely. I'm in the same boat. The only thing is that obviously Bradley Beal, the last couple years now, he's been hurt. Yes, Zach has as well dealt with his injuries, but Bradley Beal only played 40 games last year, and then he was injured. So you have to keep that in mind. I mean, but before this season, he scored 30 points in back-to-back years. He's a 3-time All-Star, yes.
Yeah.
LaVine has just hit the All-Star a couple times now himself. So both of these guys are not too far off from being almost the exact same player. The difference is I think LaVine's length is a little bit more there, which allows him to have a little bit better shot. But like you said, Beal has a little bit more dog in him that allows him to kind of take the riskier shots. And I think he has a little bit more of a eye for the basket on those clutch shots too. Not to say LaVine hasn't. He's hit some clutch shots before as well.
Agreed.
But Bradley Beal, since he was a rookie, I have seen him hit that three-pointer to win it a number of times and do it like it's nothing. So between the two of them, because of his, I think, more active role, and I think maybe because, and I don't know how much to buy into the LaVine is upset with the DeRozan thing. I would say that peanuts, I think, in comparison to it. But just because I think it would be a little bit more of a veteran leadership to add to the roster, I might go with Bradley Beal. And again, because like we said, defense isn't exactly maybe on par, but his activity with it would be nice. Plus, I mean, listen, if we're saying one of these guys is on the Bulls, let's just say that real quick. If one of these guys is going to be on the Chicago Bulls or something, I like Bradley Beal to kind of be the guy that takes the ball up the court over Zach LaVine if Lonzo Ball is going to be injured, because Bradley Beal is proven to be like a guy that can be a combo guard with a great ability to pass. LaVine is not the best passer in the world. He's a great shooter, but Bradley Beal is like a guy that can actually be an all-around. I can get rebounds, I can get assists, I can get steals, things like that. So I think I like Bradley Beal just a touch more over LaVine. But that, again, that's just me. You like LaVine more than Bradley Beal. Yeah, it's
like a 50-50.
You could toss a coin and probably
basically for me, that's where it's at.
And you would win on either one. So I mean, look, neither one. These guys are both great. It'd be great if we could have the late great Kobe Bryant come back in both of these guys, but that's probably not going to happen. Or Michael Jordan appear in them. It's probably not going to happen though. But that's going to do it for the NBA questions. Obviously, guys, answer these questions. Let us know what you thought. What do you think about these situations in the NBA? Comment down below. Let us know. We want to hear from you guys. And when we do come back, we've got some football news. Yes, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. Right here on the X-Bomb Sports Live Show. And welcome back, everybody, here to the X-Bomb Sports Live Show. I'm still Andrew Valentin. I'm still here with the illustrious man himself, Mr. Drew Guillem. And before we get into this news, our guy King B-Mac had some stuff to say. He said, I think the Nets and Kyrie are just negotiating through the media, and ultimately Kyrie and KD aren't going anywhere. Okay, that's a fair point. I mean, look, at the end of the day, I mean, you got to ask yourself who wants Kyrie and who can take on that KD contract. That's a lot of money, and it's also a lot of ego too. So it's a good point there by King BMAC. Thank you so much. Obviously, again, guys, comment. We want to hear from you guys. But Drew, we got football news still to talk about.
Oh yeah, football.
Are you ready to do it, my friend?
Let's go.
Let's do this. So we are kicking this one off with the sad ending of a wonderful career.
Maybe.
We'll
see when Tom goes calling in midseason.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll get it. Rob Gronkowski, tight end, is officially retiring from the NFL for the second time as of last Tuesday. He put on social media that obviously he gave this, great giant speech that it's been a great career and all that stuff. So at 33 years old, Rob Gronkowski once again now retiring from the NFL. Now, there's a lot of speculation that this could be just, I don't want to go to training camp, so he doesn't want to lose money, so he's just retiring for the time being, and then he will unretire when training camp is over with. That is possible. I know, 33 years old, his body's been through hell at this point. As a tight end especially, his body's been through a lot of hell. But the question I have for you, Drew, is let's just assume that this is it for Rob Gronkowski. This is his career. We have seen the last of Gronk. The Gronk era is over. Where do you? I mean, we talk about this. We've talked about this before. But where do you see Rob Gronkowski now in the grand scheme of all-time great tight ends, and not even just tight ends? Where do you see him anywhere in that length of all-time great NFL players as well? I mean, does he have a fit? Does he have a place there for yourself as well? What do you think?
Man, all-time greats of all positions.
I know there's a lot of guys on that list.
I think he has to be because I do think he's one of the top tight ends ever to do it.
Okay.
Ever. Not only could he catch, score touchdowns, and run, but this dude can block.
Yeah.
He's one of the best blocking tight ends out there as well.
Mm-hmm.
So he had the full game, all-around game.
Yeah.
Injuries hurt some. His body getting beat up a lot, shortened his career some.
Right.
But I think he's one of the best to ever do it. At top 1, 2, 3 tight end ever, and then he's, because of that, has to be named as one of the best NFL players of all time, just for what he was able to do, the number of championships he was involved in and won, and just what he's meant for the NFL and what he's done for the NFL.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat with you. Listen, I think he's one of the top 10 tight ends of all time.
I love him.
Maybe even the top. Oh yeah, he's a wonderful. I will say this: when he first kind of came on the scene, he got under my skin, but I grew to like him because you realize, okay, he's a personality.
Yes,
he's truly a personality. He's a fun guy. He likes to have fun. He clearly enjoys football. But when you really even hear him speak, you realize there is more to him than just party all day, dudes. He is a very smart, sophisticated individual that actually understands the game. He clearly kind of plays up the dumb old football player kind of thing up, which is
party
fine.
Boy.
Yeah, absolutely, which is totally fine. I would say I think he's in my top 5. I still think Tony Gonzalez for me is number 1. Guys like Kellen Winslow Sr., I think, has to be up there too, because obviously without him, you don't get Tony Gonzalez and Antonio Gates and guys like that. Ditka's another one. I think John Mackey's one. Jason Witten is, I think, still in that top 10 too. Dave Casper. I love Dave Casper. I think he's another one that should be there. I mean, there's a ton of these guys, but Gronk, I absolutely think needs to be in that conversation for tight ends. But I still think, though, too, and I'm not trying to take it off of Gronk. I'm just saying that Travis Kelce probably will be one of those guys that eventually gets there himself as well. Maybe even George Kittle too. I mean, this is the time where I think and I think you can even say though, but because of Gronk is why you see the importance now of Travis Kelce, George Kittle, Darren Waller, all of these guys, right? Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski showed the importance of having the big, strong tight end that can take the ball down the field. And I think because of that, you have to put him in the top 5, top 10 all-time conversation easily. So I think I agree with that. I don't think he's number 1, but I put him in the top 5 for sure. All right, next on the NFL news. So before we get into the college football news that we had coming up, I want to get on this as just a real quick kind of tuner. So the word is that Ndamukong Suh, former Lions player, Buccaneers defensive tackle, he's still a free agent. He's still looking for one more chance to play into the NFL. It is reported that the Minnesota Vikings could potentially be looking into signing Suh for a one-year deal to potentially bring him onto the defense. It has also been reported that by some people in the Chicago media, potentially bringing Ndamukong Suh into this Matt Eberflus defense of a 3-4 defense as he's been used to from his time in Detroit may be something to suggest, considering that he would be a cheap veteran pickup. So for you, Drew, obviously the hometown team, Chicago Bears, we know they have a history with Suh.
Right. Everybody does. Everybody that's played against
everybody
him
really
has a history.
does.
But those are old teams.
Yeah.
Old players. None of those players are even around.
No,
anymore,
exactly.
So.
I will say shamelessly, I have loved him since college. His bad boy attitude is something I understand that completely.
Liked him very much.
I understand that completely. I did not like him when he did the whole stepping on Jay thing. So, although at some point I did think Jay did deserve it for some of his picks. But nevertheless, what do you think about Ndamukong Suh coming into this team as like a veteran voice? Considering obviously we've lost, the Bears have lost Khalil Mack and a few other guys now. Do you think that bringing in Ndamukong Suh would be a good piece to add for this team, considering where they're going at right now?
Sure, for a part-time player. I don't know that he necessarily has full-time player left in him.
Yeah.
But for a part-time player, he did well last year or the year before that when he was playing with Tampa. He had a role there, and he played well for them.
Yeah.
So I think he still has some left in the tank. I just don't want to pay too much for him.
Right.
So if they can get him for a reasonable price, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Because he still is a beast of a player, and the Bears need somebody up the middle at that position that's going to wreak havoc.
Absolutely. For those who don't know, last year, 27 total tackles, so not a lot of tackles, but he was playing more of like a nose tackle spot. He still had 6 sacks, okay? Still had 6 sacks, and he still had 7 tackles for loss, and had 13 quarterback hits. So this is a guy that even at his age of 35 can still have a performance. So like you said, maybe not a full-time player, but as a part-time guy that works in maybe like with Jones or any of these other young guys that they have coming up through the ranks, there's a good possibility that signing, and again, you're talking about a veteran minimum. You're not talking about a ton of money. As a guy that can kind of just come in, be a leader on the team, be a voice for the unit, help kind of lead the pack for the defensive line, and maybe help shape some of those guys too, right? I mean, yes, nasty player, dirty player, of course, absolutely. But with that kind of stuff, look, I play defensive line. I know there's tricks and trades that you need to kind of learn on how to beat the offensive lineman so the refs can't really see it. Teaching some of those guys is going to help the Bears ultimately. Is it dirty? Is it tricky? Well, if the refs, listen, I was always told if the ref doesn't catch it, it's legal. So take that for what you will. Kids play by the rules, though. But I think it would be a good move to at least look into Ndamukong Suh as long as he's healthy. I think he can still be a player to help perform for this team. And then last but not least, this is the football news at the end. It's the big news. It's the news I screamed about on Blow the Whistle to just finally have end. Well, apparently it has come to an end. The #1 overall quarterback and prospect in college football for 2023, Mr. Arch Manning, or excuse me, 2024, I believe it is. Arch Manning has 2023. Sorry, my mind is everywhere now.
Will you figure it out already?
I'm sorry. Arch Manning, the nephew of Eli and Peyton Manning, and the grandson of Archie Manning, and the son of Cooper Manning, has officially committed to the University of Texas. You backstabber. Okay, now, sorry. You're a Louisiana man and you go to Texas. How dare you? Okay, but all bias aside, Drew, I mean, obviously he's a Manning. He's one of the most anticipated high school quarterbacks I think we've seen in years, honestly. I mean, I think probably since Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields probably came out, and maybe even before that. I don't know if we've ever seen somebody this anticipated for. What do you think about his move to Texas? Do you think that this is a good move for Arch Manning? And what do you think this does now for the University of Texas, considering where the future is going at now?
Cool. Congratulations, you picked a school. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really care where he goes. It does nothing for me.
Right.
I'm glad he finally picked a school and he wants to go to Texas. It's supposed to mean big things for Texas.
Yeah.
Okay? Your top recruit, from all accounts, he is going to be a stud.
Mm-hmm.
But who knows? Ryan Leaf was going to be a stud too.
Yes.
Marcus Russell was going to be a stud too.
Oh,
you
God.
never. Okay, I'm glad he played awesome in high school.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean anything.
Right.
It doesn't, except for your rating in high school sports,
right,
and where you're going to come and how many other teams are going to want you.
Yeah.
That's what it means.
No, yeah.
So to me, that's fine. That's great. I'm glad he picked a school. I'm looking forward to seeing what he can actually do and where his football career is going to go, because he is a Manning. So there's a lot of rich history with the Mannings. There's a lot of really good football play with the Mannings.
Absolutely.
So I'm excited to see what happens. I think it's going to be big for Texas just by name and recognition. And if he plays well, they can definitely boost themselves to higher ranks than they've been.
Yeah, for sure. I wasn't shocked by this. We knew that he was kind of like getting it down. It sounded like it was Alabama, Georgia, and Texas. Choosing Texas, I think, is actually a smart move. I think it's a good way to kind of say you're walking your own path. You're kind of breaking away. Because listen, if he went to Ole Miss and followed in the steps of his grandfather and his uncle Archie and Eli, there's pressure there, right? If he goes to Tennessee, there's pressure there from Peyton, right? If he plays in the SEC, I think there's pressure because your uncles and your grandfather played in the SEC. So the pressure of being a Manning would be there. I think going to Texas, which, yes, by the time I think he's a junior, they're going to be in the SEC, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure. But even if that does happen, you've built yourself through the Big 12 of playing for Texas, a program that seems to be on the rise. And also, too, there's no pressure on him because right now, Quinn Ewers is right now kind of projected to be the starting quarterback who, yes, by next year, if he doesn't have it, they're going to probably go with Arch Manning at that point. But I think it's a smart move for him. It allows you to kind of build your own life, create your own legacy, create your own destiny. You are a Manning, yes. Expectations will be there for him, absolutely. But it doesn't mean that he has to then also live up to that expectation of being Peyton or Eli or Archie or any of those guys, right? Be Arch Manning. Be the young quarterback you are, and just let it happen. You don't even have to, I mean, listen, does he have to get the Texas Longhorns to the national championship for him to be a top quarterback? No, we've seen that too many times where guys, have this great year and they become the number one pick, and then they bring in another quarterback who has a bunch of lawsuits against them, and then they want to try and trade the guy out, even though they really can't because nobody else really wants him. Who am I talking about again? Sorry. So obviously, who knows what's going to happen with Arch Manning, but I would, if this guy ever saw it, all I would say was just do yourself. Don't try to be like your uncles. Be Arch Manning. Be the quarterback that the 6'4", 215-pound junior, you lucky SOB, you. God, it must be nice to be in that family. My goodness. But congratulations to Arch Manning. You've picked a school. Now decommit and go to LSU. That's all I'm going to say. And I'm going to leave it at that there, folks. I'm going to leave it at that. No bias meant, of course, by all means. And that's going to do it for the NFL and the football talk here, folks. And when we do come back, we're going to have, of course, our fun little fan questions we've got from you guys. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back here on the X-Bomb Sports Live Show.
Man, I'm so hungry. I need somewhere to eat fast. I have no idea where to go.
Psst. Hola, me llamo El Taco de Taco. You know where to go for the amazing taste that'll have you craving more? Taco Bell.
All right, can I get 20 tacos, please?
You got it.
Thanks, Taco.
De nada.
Good. That's it. Eat the tacos.
Taco Bell. Live más.
And welcome everybody here to the Xbox Sports Podcast. I'm still yeah. I'm still here with my man Drew Gwillem.
And we're singing.
Baby. So we've got some fan questions as always. Thank you guys so much for the wonderful fan questions. We always do appreciate it. If you have those fan questions, hit us up, xbsportsofficial@gmail.com. Drew, you ready to hit these?
Let's go.
Let's do it, folks. So the first one, this one comes from, we kind of changed this around thanks to our wonderful technology going on us as usual. This actually comes from our guy, Monty. Monty is from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. He is a giant NBA fan, and he loves the draft, and he is one of these guys who's actually been watching NBA for a lot of years, since like he said the 80s. So he's been seeing a lot, and he's watched the draft every year, and he asked us, he asked us, what are some of the best NBA misses in the history of the draft? Like players. So basically, he's asking what teams that were in the draft picked a player, and then ultimately we saw another player go, and history has obviously come to find that the player that was picked after that team is way better than the one that was picked by that team. If you get what I'm saying.
Well,
what do you think, Drew? Who do you got?
In that scenario?
Yes.
Every busted player, there's always going to be somebody after
Absolutely.
So either way, anybody we pick here, there's going to be a better player that was picked.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Because these guys are busts.
Yeah, unfortunately.
One big one for me, because I hate Ohio State, Greg Oden. Apparently, I'm not even going to go there. I'm not going to go too far into that.
Don't forget, now they have the patent on the, so now they are the Ohio State.
Congratulations. Yeah, just the word you needed to be something special.
I'll just let you know, David did a great job on the "You're Killing Me" Smalls rant on that. He blew it up. So
fantastic.
He covered for I think both of you.
Oh yeah, very nice. Yes. But Greg Oden's size and what he was able to do in college, and then coming to NBA and non-existent.
No, yeah.
So for me, that's one big one that's been no good.
No, that's
good.
That's a tough one.
That guy should have been a hell of a lot more than he was.
Absolutely.
But at least he has a giant. I mean, you ever seen the pictures? The guy is huge.
Yes,
I haven't seen it. I just heard.
He's a big man. He's a very big
he's like
man.
a 7-footer.
Yeah, he is. He really is.
Big wingspan.
Yes.
It's massive.
Yeah. He's everything that obviously you would want in a center, but obviously he did the other thing that a lot of these bigger guys tend to do. He gained a lot of weight extremely fast and could never work it off. Yep. Eddie Curry, famously for the Bulls, how can we ever forget? He came in, warm practice at 230. He came in the next week at 260. How do you gain 30 pounds in a week? It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Some of my favorites for me is how, let's say, the Kings have had multiple moments where they've picked a player and then had another player go before them. Let's not forget, they picked Marvin Bagley II when they could have had Luka Doncic or Trae Young. There is also when they picked Thomas Robinson. And then the next pick, the Portland Trailblazers, I believe, picked, what was his name? Oh, yeah, Damian Lillard. That was another one that clearly did not work out in their favor. One of my favorites also, too, is the Ricky Rubio drafting of the Minnesota Timberwolves, which was just a fun one when they could have had he just won MVP finals, didn't he? He won the finals MVP. Steph Curry, I think it was. I will even go as far to say that I think even the Clippers would have probably said Blake Griffin or Steph Curry, knowing what they know now. I think Steph Curry easily would have been the number one pick at that point. I'm not saying Blake Griffin's a bust, but I do think that was a swing and a miss for the Clippers, considering what he has meant for the Warriors. Can you imagine he wins? Can you imagine he wins all those championships for the Clippers? That doesn't seem real, right? That's not something that's supposed to happen.
Yeah.
Not even close. Not even. I mean, look, there's a ton of these.
One of the biggest one for me is going to be, Anthony Bennett, just garbage. I don't know where that came from. But the Sam Bowie, and they passed on not only Charles Barkley, John Stockton, but the greatest to ever do it in Michael Jordan.
Absolutely.
Enough said.
I mean, and by the way, for those who don't know, for Greg Oden, the pick that came after him was maybe one of the greatest scorers to ever play the game in Kevin Durant. A very skinny kid out of Texas, Kevin Durant. I'm looking at the picture of them right now where Oden looks like a 30-year-old man at 21, and Durant looks like a young, fresh 19-year-old kid that's ready to destroy the world. Another one I will put up, too, is obviously Chris Paul. Missing him on the draft was a big one, I know, for a lot of teams. New Orleans obviously came up big with that. But I can't forget about as well the Kings one, too. They could have had Klay Thompson. They instead took Jimmer Fredette. Which obviously,
because of the tournament.
Yeah, absolutely, because of the tournament when he lit it up for 30 whatever points or something like that. And one of my favorites is the 2003 draft where LeBron obviously goes number 1. Detroit's up next, and they have all these great names, right? Carmelo Anthony, Chris Bosh, and they took Darko Milicic, who fell ass backwards into a championship with them in 2003. Come on. No, thank you. That's not it. But TJ, you had one that you brought up that I want the world to know about that actually affects us here in Chicago. Please let them know which one it was for everyone out there.
Okay, so no one really hate me on this one. If you're a big Bulls fan, I have actually 2 in here that I was not a fan of.
Okay.
Okay. First one, yet again, no hate, Stacey King. Okay. Stacey King at number 6. He is a great announcer. He played 8 seasons for you.
Mm-hmm.
But you could have had the lowest one is Nick Anderson, a nice sharpshooter out of Illinois. Would have been a great asset for Michael Jordan going down the lane and kicking it out.
Yeah.
Would have loved it. But you also could have had Tim Anderson. I'm sorry, Tim. You probably could have had him too.
Right, yeah.
He was a little kid. No. Tim Hardaway or Sean Kemp. Sean Kemp. You could have had
Wow.
Yeah.
either one of those.
Could you
And if you would
imagine
have
that?
traded up, you could have had both. But no, you have Stacey King and BJ Armstrong. If you would have just made a little trade, you could have had Michael Jordan, Tim Anderson, Scottie Pippen, Sean Kemp, and then it could have been a cardboard cutout of a center, and you still would have won.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I mean, listen, we love Stacey King.
They would have won 6 more.
Absolutely. We would love Stacey King, but to imagine that you could have had Nick Anderson, Tim Hardaway, Sean Kemp, 2, if not maybe even possibly garnered somehow 3 on the team. I don't know if that would have happened, but get 2 of the 3 potentially. Can you imagine? They run the table then. And by the way, Tim Hardaway and Nick Anderson are local guys. How do you not draft the local? Give no love to the local dudes. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. That was good, TJ. I like that. By the way, again, we love Stacey King as the announcer. But gosh darn, man. Gosh darn. Also, too, I'll bring this up, too, because I'm sure you and we all remember this one. The Hasheem Thabeet trade that ultimately was before James Harden. Oh, what the Memphis Grizzlies could have had. And oh, what OKC definitely was able to make of their entire team. Well, and we can go on and on and on. And I'll leave this with this one. The late, great Kobe Bryant, obviously being picked by Charlotte. And the miss, of course, of the Charlotte Hornets not keeping him because they wanted Vlade Divac. And that's going to do it for those big misses in NBA history. Again, thank you so much, Monty, for the question. We do appreciate it. And let's go to our final question here. So there's an abundance of guys in this draft that are former NFL players that are former NBA players that have their sons entering the draft this year. There's a handful of them. So this actually comes from our guy Damien in Mount Prospect. Damien asked us the question. He said, I got 3 guys on this list: Shareef O'Neal, Scottie Pippen Jr., and Ron Harper Jr. He said, of these 3 guys, which of these 3 do you think will live up to their father's legacy, considering that all 3 of them have championship rings, 2 of them are in the Hall of Fame? And again, sorry, I get choked up talking about these kids. They're so nice. There's a bunch of other kids in here, but he just mentions these 3. Drew, what do you think for these guys?
I think because of the fact that Shaq and Scottie Pippen are two of the greatest to ever do it. And they're on that list of top NBA players of all time.
Yeah.
And that's tough to live up to.
Mm-hmm.
So for that reason, I think the greatest shot that anyone has is Ron Harper Jr. to be what his dad was or somewhat close to it, or even go beyond that.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily see it with the other ones because those are really big careers to try and live up to.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I don't know that their games are close to their dads. So
unfortunately, sure. I mean, I don't know if you heard the news. Shaq actually was upset at Sharif for entering the draft. Thought he should have stayed an extra year. Scottie never really said anything about his son, probably because he's still yelling and complaining about Jordan stealing his time in the limelight, whatever.
Most likely.
Ron Harper's kid, absolutely, I agree with. I actually think he might be the best of the three because his game translates well to what it is because he's exactly like his father. He's long, tall, and he's got a great three-point shot, and he can drive to the basket. He's exactly like his dad in a lot of ways. So the Bulls, if he doesn't get drafted, I'm just saying, if you bring Scottie Pippen Jr. and Ron Harper in, we'll go see the Windy City Bulls all day, but also don't forget to bring in Kofi Kingston with them, Kofi Coburn as well into that group. And come on, that team is gonna run the clock. The other guys also, by the way, in this, Jabari Smith's father played in the NBA. AJ Griffin's father obviously would have been the Bulls coach if they wouldn't have hired Donovan. Is with the assistant with the Raptors. So those guys, I think, are going to be just fine as first-round draft picks. But thank you again so much for the question, Damian. And that's going to do it for us here on the show, guys, because the draft is starting here very soon. So thank you again for the questions, Damian and Monte.
It starts now.
Starts right now. So get on those guys. Drew, thank you so much, as always, man, for joining me on this.
Always a good time.
Let the people know where they can find you. And by the way, real quick, I want to say happy birthday to you, my friend. We didn't get a chance to do it yesterday. I wanted to make sure to do it real quick. Happy belated birthday to you, my amigo.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
It was Saturday. If anybody wants to send me gifts, that's totally acceptable. I will gladly take them.
Absolutely.
Or I can, send you my Venmo if you want to send me cash. That's cool too.
Right, and we'll let the people know where they can find you if they want to send you those gifts or Venmo.
Well, if you'd like to come watch me, here I am Wednesdays and Thursdays, right here live on the X-Bomb Sports Live Show. Mm-hmm. But if you would like to send me money, questions, gifts, anything like that, you can contact me on Instagram at d.gwil25 or Facebook at Drew Gwillem.
Absolutely. Guys,
we'll be awaiting your gifts.
Absolutely. Guys, make sure to go check out Drew. Go check out Drew. Make sure to go give him a follow, give him a love and likes, and wish him some happy birthdays, guys. Again, happy birthday to you, Drew. Also, guys, too, make sure to follow me on Instagram at Boom Crew Captain. Also, find me on Twitter at The Fluffy Guru. Guys, if you won't follow us anymore, make sure to hit us up on our Facebook, facebook.com/TeamXBombSports. Make sure to also follow us on our YouTube page and subscribe to us. It's at X-Bomb Sports on YouTube, so make sure to go hit us up there as well, ladies and gentlemen. Also, too, make sure that you guys can follow us on our Instagram at X-Bomb Sports on Twitter, our social media at X-Bomb Sports on Twitter and Instagram. And if you have any questions, comments, hit us up at xbsportsofficial@gmail.com. Real quick, too, blow the whistle on the radio side, sportstownchicago.com, 2 to 4 p.m. Monday. Sportstown Chicago on the TV side. Usually it's Tuesday, 2:30 to 3:30 p.m. We're doing it on Wednesdays lately. Check out Brandon on 94.3 WMKR, Genuine Country. And also check out his podcast, Baseball Banter with Brandon, on Spotify as well. And also check out Money Motivation with Hannah B. Our very own Hannah Brummer does a great podcast on Spotify, Odyssey, and iHeartRadio. And also check her out, too, at 102.3 XLC, The Afternoon Drive, where she is just ending it right now. So be on the lookout for that, ladies and gentlemen. Also, too, check her out at Star 96 doing her morning show with the great Eddie Volkman. That's the After 8 shows at 9, so make sure to go check that out, guys, as well. Also, too, make sure to go check out our boys at The Parlay, theparlay.com. Tony Lopez and Kendall Gill, they're going to be doing their thing. By the way, hashtag Gill versus Paul, hashtag Paul versus Gill. Jake Paul, you know what you are. You completely avoiding Kendall Gill. Come on, man. Tommy Fury ain't nothing. Fight a real boxer. Absolutely. And, of course, too, if you want to get any more information for your fantasy football needs, we'll be starting up here soon with the Fake Football Guys on YouTube. And that's going to do it for us here, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all so much for watching and listening. We'll see you guys next week. And, as always, much love. Peace out, Boom Crew.